For me, it's like this, walking into a bush and you're walking into a corroboree and you have to make noise in order to appease to our Creator, Biami. That's who we have a relationship. But also I want to say a few words. I want to say this. Welcome to Gadigal land, Aboriginal land. Always was, always will be. Also I want to say this. I want to say thank you to the yeses out there who voted for us in the referendum. What it means is this, it's a reset. We know that we've been in this country for 65,000 years, and the 4th of October was a reset. It means this, that we will need to go forward and be part of the Australian way of life, and that is we are the first and we want to be the last. And we want to continue with our legacy to grow more and be here for another 65,000 years. And it means a lot. Part of this corroboree here, the circle, you enter it and you're part of it. And when I leave, it means that we have voices and we'll carry those voices onwards so that we can have a perfect relationship. And that relationship is this. And we certainly want to have the closing the gaps. And we want to enact all the different plans about land activation plan, reconciliation plans, inclusive plans to make sure we can get there. But it's up to you. It's up to you to make sure we get there, because if we don't get there, it means that we will lose that opportunity. I want to first acknowledge Padaguran, Pamoy, Mosquito. These are our legendary warriors who had the first dialogues with the Europeans when the tall ships came through Sydney Harbour. And to have an appreciation of this land, you need to recognise them, because they are the leaders of the time. And like myself, I'm not a board member, I'm the chairperson of the Metropolitan Local Land Council. And I want to say this to you. Every morning that I wake up, I see the sunset, the sunrise. And when it rises, it touches to all those clans here in Sydney, 29 clans. And the sunlight hits those clans right from Bondi all the way to the Blue Mountains. And when it goes over the Blue Mountains, it also touches the other clans, the Wiradjuri clans, the Gamilaroi clans. And I only mention those two because that's part of my dreaming in terms of my relationship. And when it goes further, there are 54 clans here in New South Wales. When it goes across Australia, there are 300 to 500 different clans. And these are our touch points. And when it goes to night, our culture reborns itself every day to make a connection. And I say this, when an Aboriginal child is born, we smoke the child to the land to say, this is your land. That's where sovereignty comes from. And it's an important factor in terms of our relationship as custodians, land managers, but also making sure we protect Mother Earth. And if we don't protect Mother Earth, all Australians need to protect Mother Earth, because it means a lot to make sure that your generation, like us, we've been here, there's something like 1,200 generations of Aboriginal people who've lived on this great land called Australia. So with that, have a great night. Stay away from the liquor. And firstly, I want to say and be proud, I want to introduce two wonderful young First Nations people. They will perform a powerful song for First Nations perspective. They'll tell a bit more about the song and their relationship. Will you please welcome Kian and also Yara. Thank you very much.
Yala de Yara, Ngai Kuburi Kian, Nuluburi Yara. Ngayo nganja guguyalanji jirabu bama. Ngayo ngamu Torres Strait bama. Ngayo Burundai Garago Aboriginal Bubu Burundai. Hello everyone, my name is Kian. My father is a Guguyalanji Jirabu man from North Queensland, and my mom's a Torres Strait Islander from Badu Island in North Queensland. And I would like to thank Uncle Alan for that beautiful welcome, and also pay my respects to the land on which we meet, and pay my respects to all 29 clans of so-called Sydney, in honor of the sky, land, water. It's a privilege to be here, and always was, always will be Aboriginal land. I'd like to introduce my beautiful friend Yara, who's going to sing with me today.
Hello, my name's Yara. Thank you to the Australian Human Rights Organisation and Kian, my beautiful friend, for having me. I'm a Palestinian immigrant. Thank you. Thank you so much. I migrated here from the Gaza Strip when I was 12, 14 years ago. I'm very lucky to be here, but it has left a huge Palestine-shaped hole in my heart. I still have family over there, friends, community, and I'm sure you're aware of the humanitarian crisis situation going on at the moment. So far, 17,000 people killed. 7,000 of those are children. I won't go much on about this, but I know that Australia is attempting to amend and heal what they've done to Indigenous people of this land. And I believe strongly that you cannot, in the same breath, do that while supporting and funding with our tax money the genocide of my people in Palestine. So, thank you. I'll leave you with Free Palestine, and always was, always will be, Indigenous land.
This one's called Take No More. Please sing it with us. We show up, you sing, take no more. Black from the heart, you sing, take no more. True in our law, take no more. We show up, take no more. Black to the core, take no more. But here all alone,
Take no.
come stand beside, come join in our fight. Forever at the start of a conversation, but never at the heart. Been waiting for times to change, tired of all the wrong answers. Too many missed opportunities, strikes and walk-offs and unheard statements. We sing our songs 'cause we know where we come from. We sing our songs 'cause the old ones have fought for it. We sing our songs. Our existence is from their resistance. We show up, take no more. Black from the heart, take no more. True in our Lord, take no more. On our voices before. We show up, take no more. Black to the core, take no more. Here all alone, take no. Still here, standing strong. Shine our torches toward revolution. equality, for our land, for our people, for our sovereignty. We won't take no more.
No more.
We won't take no more.
No more. No more.
We won't take no more.
No more.
We won't take no more. We sing our songs 'cause we know where we come from. We sing our songs 'cause our old ones have fought for it. We sing our songs. Our existence is from their resistance. We show up, take no more. Black from the heart, take no more. True in our Lord, take no more. On our voices before. We show up, take no more. Black to the core, take no more. Here all alone,
Take no more.
still here, standing strong. We show up, take no more. Black from the heart, take no more. True in our Lord, on the voices before. Thank you very much.
To kick off our proceedings, thank you for turning my microphone on. What a way to kick off tonight's proceedings. Please put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, one more time for Keen and Yara. Thank you also to Uncle Alan for that wonderful welcome to country. Good evening, I am Naz Campanella. I am the National Disability Affairs reporter at the ABC, and tonight I am thrilled to be your host. It's the second year in a row that I've been asked to come and host these awards, so last year mustn't have been too bad. Welcome to the 2023 Human Rights Awards. This is a night where we get to recognise and celebrate the incredible individuals and organisations who are doing some incredible human rights work right around the country. You are either joining us here tonight in the UTS Great Hall or online. Thank you very much for streaming. I too would like to acknowledge and pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging, and pay my respects to the land that we are here on tonight. And as a person who is blind, any event that I host, it is customary that I provide an audio description of myself for any people who may be vision impaired in our audience. I am a white woman in my mid-30s. I have shoulder-length brown hair, which is tonight up, and I am wearing a teal-coloured dress. Now, it's the second year in a row that we've been here in the Great Hall at UTS. I must admit, it's very nostalgic for me. I did many exams here and graduated in this room. I would like to call on the UTS Vice-Chancellor, Professor Andrew Parfitt, to give us a few words here tonight.
Thank you so much, and welcome to UTS. Let me also acknowledge that we are on Gadigal land. It always is and it always will be. And pay respect to elders past and present, acknowledging them as the traditional custodians of knowledge for this place. And on behalf of the University, I'd also like to welcome all of our guests, particularly the Attorney General, the Honourable Mark Dreyfus, KC, who is this year's orator. We're honoured again to host this important event at UTS. The Human Rights Awards recognise individuals who passionately champion and defend human rights across Australia. These awards symbolise our collective commitment to drive meaningful change and create a more just and equitable society for all, something we're all passionate about here at UTS. As a public institution, social justice is fundamental to our purpose. And we can only achieve social change by working closely with and for our community, across our research and our education and our practice. We believe that universities play a crucial role in upholding human rights. This responsibility includes addressing inequity, including systematic barriers to education and upholding free speech and respectful debate. Importantly, universities are instrumental in preparing graduates to have a civic mindset, empowering them to address injustices whenever they meet them and serve as advocates for others. And as we gather here on the cusp of the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, it's a moment to reflect on the efforts and progress we have made as a society in the pursuit of social justice and equality. But of course, there's so much more to be done, and progress is not everywhere equal. This year has seen devastating humanitarian crises, the intensification of climate change impacts globally, and a challenging and disappointing referendum here in Australia. But it's important to take time to celebrate the achievements and the ongoing work of human rights champions in our community, including each of you here tonight. The impact and huge difference you make in people's lives cannot be understated. We need you and your bold ideas now more than ever. Congratulations to each of the award finalists tonight for their fantastic contributions. We at UTS are delighted to be part of tonight's event, and I look forward to celebrating with each of you.
Thank you, Andrew. Well, tonight is all about 21 incredible people and organisations and the communities they represent and serve. But tonight is also about International Human Rights Day. That is going to take place this Sunday on the 10th of December. Now, this year's awards has particular significance because it does mark the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And that really does provide us with an opportunity to really reflect on the purpose and impact of this landmark document in both Australia and also in international context. You'll be hearing a lot more about that later. You'll also be hearing much more about the wonderful finalists who are here tonight and the incredible work they've been doing to advance the human rights and social justice of the communities they serve here in Australia. While much of the focus this evening is on them, it's important to also acknowledge that tonight's event is also about all of you, the people in this room and those watching online who are all supporters and advocates of human rights, and you also deserve special thanks for supporting this wonderful showcase here tonight of all these people that are working to promote and protect human rights of us all. One of these organisations, of course, is the Australian Human Rights Commission, and it's presented these awards since 1987. I'd now like to ask Commission President Emeritus Professor Roslyn Croucher AM to welcome us on behalf of the Commission here tonight.
Thank you, Naz, and welcome everyone to the 2023 Australian Human Rights Awards and the Human Rights Day oration. I would like to begin by adding my acknowledgement to the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation and pay my respects to elders, past, present, and especially the emerging ones, the little ones, the ones upon whose shoulders so much of the welfare of our country will depend in future. And to acknowledge all First Nations people who are joining us in the room today or online. Welcome to you all. We also have some very special guests in our audience today. Commonwealth Attorney General, the Honourable Mark Dreyfus, KC MP, who will be delivering our oration tonight. UTS Vice-Chancellor, Professor Andrew Parfitt. UTS Pro-Vice-Chancellor, Professor Verity Firth. Australian Ambassador for Human Rights, Bronte Mools. Australian Information and Privacy Commissioner, Angeline Falk. Victorian Equal Opportunity and Human Rights Commissioner, Ro Allen. New South Wales Commissioner for Ageing and Disability, Robert Fitzgerald, AM. And from the Pacific, Fiji Anti-Discrimination and Human Rights Commissioner, Lanieta Tuimbambu, the Ombudsman for the Cook Islands, Nikki Rattle, New Zealand Disability Rights Commissioner Prudence Walker, and the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, representative for Australia, New Zealand and the Pacific, Adrian Edwards, and eminent reformist lawyer, jurist and patron of the Evatt Foundation and very dear friend, the Honourable Elizabeth Evatt AC. And of course, the current commissioners of the Australian Human Rights Commission join me this evening, and they'll be welcoming to the stage at various points they'll be playing a key part in our proceedings. Also, I want to acknowledge our recently appointed Disability Discrimination Commissioner, Rosemary Caius, who will be... Yes, well-deserved applause. And Rosemary will be joining us as the Disability Commissioner at the end of January. Sincerest apologies, though, from our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Social Justice Commissioner, June Oscar, AO, who can't be with us tonight. Our family circumstances have kept her in the Kimberley. Every year, the Commission holds these awards to celebrate human rights achievements. It's a chance to acknowledge, congratulate and share the important work of organisations, businesses and individuals across the nation. And every year, I'm truly inspired and deeply moved by the bravery, compassion and dedication of the people and organisations we honour through this event. Last year was the first in this hall, and I have to say, by the end of the evening, there was not a dry eye in the House. I'd also like to pay tribute to all the other everyday human rights heroes who are quietly making their own unique contributions to making our community more equitable, inclusive, and respectful. This year's awards align with the 75th anniversary of one of the most important documents in human history, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It will be a common theme among our speakers tonight. This significant anniversary also falls at a time of human rights challenges around the world, in Israel, Palestine, the Ukraine, Afghanistan, and many other places, and the troubling and at times violent echoes of it being played out in our own society. And at such times, I am drawn back more strongly to the great opening article of the Universal Declaration, that we are all born free and equal in dignity and rights. If we are to keep faith with our vision of the world that is based on the promise of the Declaration's opening article, we must take every opportunity we can to promote and protect these universal values. Human rights begins with us. Whether it's in the chambers of our parliaments, through our screens, on the streets, in our homes, or in gatherings like this tonight, we must strive to place human rights at the forefront of our thinking and, in troubled times, to acknowledge and empathise with the pain of others. The Declaration provides a blueprint for building communities, large or small, where we can all live in peace and harmony. As we seek to advance and defend human rights, we must also be true at all times to the universal nature of these principles. And we cannot pick and choose how and to whom human rights are applied. We must all ensure the actions we undertake and the language we use to advocate for the rights of some do not undermine the rights of others. This is the reasoning and sentiment which underpins the Declaration, that human rights exist to protect everyone, everywhere, every day. By having empathy and compassion, by making dignity real for everyone, by respecting each other, we keep true to our shared humanity and to the best part of ourselves. Human rights begins with us. For the last 5 years, the Commission has been developing our own blueprint for better promoting and protecting human rights here in Australia. Yesterday afternoon, our final Free and Equal report was tabled. It outlines our vision for delivering a human rights framework for Australia that meets the contemporary needs and expectations of our diverse community. Our recommendations are framed by the conceptual bookends of responsibility and accountability. The Human Rights Act we're proposing first and foremost benefits ordinary people. It would mean that all of us, no matter who we are, will have a better understanding of our human rights. We will be empowered to take action to get justice when someone in the government tries to violate our rights. At the moment, the human rights protections we do have in Australia are scattered across a range of laws, and they can be confusing and contradictory. Providing a clear pathway to enforceable remedies in a Human Rights Act would substantially improve people's ability to access justice and hold the government to account for its decisions. Finally, our model for a Human Rights Act would be an evolution, not a revolution, building on the success and lessons learned from our state and territory models, and benefiting from the 4 decades of experience that the Commission has in relation to conciliating complaints about human rights breaches. I should note that our report is not just an academic exercise, although I do like them. The stakes are very, very real. In March this year, the Attorney-General initiated a parliamentary inquiry into overhauling Australia's human rights framework, including the possible introduction of a Human Rights Act for Australia. Broad support for our model has been expressed during the committee's hearings, as well in submissions which have been made. The inquiry is to report in March next year, and so we anticipate the government will have a lot of reflection to do and will announce its plans for reform thereafter. We provide our contribution as the national human rights institution to these crucial deliberations on human rights protections for Australia today. In addition to finalising our Free and Equal report, the Commission has undertaken a significant amount of work over the last 12 months. Here is a brief snapshot. As it was for much of Australia this year, the Voice referendum was a major priority for the Commission. As an institution, the Commission supported the proposal for the Voice as a pillar of the Uluru Statement from the Heart, and like so many, we were disappointed in the outcome of the referendum. While the constitutional enshrinement of the Voice did not succeed, our obligation to listen continues, and we will continue to work with First Nations people and communities to help deliver justice for the past and hope for the future. Another key issue for the Commission was the release of the final report of the Disability Royal Commission, all 12 volumes of it, which I am delighted to say embraces in large measure our thinking and recommendations in the 2 position papers produced as steps in our Free and Equal work. We hope governments, relevant industries and our community more broadly will heed the Royal Commission's recommendations and work together with the disability community to make Australia a more equitable, just and inclusive society. There were many other issues, outcomes and achievements of note right across the breadth of the Commission's mandate, such as preventing and responding to racism, improving youth justice and children's rights, addressing workplace sexual harassment and improving equity in relation to sex, gender and sexuality, preventing ageism and elder abuse, addressing the intersection of human rights with immigration, places of detention, and also technology, and investigating and conciliating more than 2,500 complaints in relation to human rights issues. Finally, we thank the Attorney-General and his department for working with us to retain the Commission's A status as a national human rights institution in the global community. We look forward to continuing our work with the confidence and independence which this best practice accreditation provides. Many thanks to all of you for coming tonight. We greatly appreciate your interest and support of the Commission, of each other, and for all our human rights heroes. We're also extremely grateful to our event partners, our independent judging panels, whose work we will hear in due course, the production team and volunteers from UTS, and the Commission's own Awards Steering Committee and event production team. Well done, all. I hope everyone here in this great hall, as well as those watching online, enjoy tonight's proceedings and use the example of the 21 human rights finalists we honour tonight, together with the promise of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, as the inspiration to make your own unique difference in the world. Now to share more about the Declaration and what it means for people here in Australia and around the world, please welcome to the stage the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees Representative for Australia, New Zealand and the Pacific, Adrian Edwards, and one of the recipients of last year's Australian Human Rights Medal, Nawid Sina.
Thank you, Ross, and good evening, everyone. Creation is often born out of devastation, and so it was with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It was, as many of you know, drafted in the wake of the Second World War and in response to the horrors inflicted on countless people and communities before, during, and after that terrible conflict. Human rights treaties that followed, the Refugee Convention being just one, owed their foundations to it. Adopted by the United Nations on the 10th of December 1948, and marked this Sunday, the Declaration sets out in 30 articles the fundamental rights and freedoms to which every human being is entitled, with no reference to a particular culture, political system or religion. It has been, for 3/4 of a century, an inspiration to generations of people seeking to advance its promise of freedom, equality, and justice for all. People like Nawid Sina from Mabuba's Promise, the recipient of last year's Australian Human Rights Medal. Nawid Jan.
Thanks, Adrian. And I want to say thank you to the Commission and a big congratulations to all finalists from the recipient of last year's medal. Yes, good luck. And you're all incredible just for being here, as is everyone else in the room. My mother and I were awarded last year's Human Rights Medal for her lifelong work for widows and orphans in Afghanistan through Mahbuba's Promise, alongside an evacuation campaign that we began on August 15, 2021, when the Taliban took over Afghanistan. That evacuation campaign saw Australia accept an unprecedented number of unaccompanied children and at-risk individuals from Afghanistan. Mahbub's Promise has always strived not only for the fundamental rights of women and children in Afghanistan, but to uplift local communities as a whole to thrive. The evacuation of the orphans in our care and other individuals who are at risk of losing their lives has meant that these children have been granted the opportunity to continue to thrive in a new land. Just this week, we've been inundated with award ceremonies and scholarship information that's come in for the high school children, so they are thriving, which was one of the things that I promised they would do in last year's speech. Our work in Afghanistan continues. Thank you. Our work in Afghanistan continues, and though regimes exist that try to strip away the fundamental rights that we celebrate today, our work continues unabated. There is much power and adaptability in grassroots organizations, and when the knowledge of grassroots organizations is leveraged by institutions, history is achieved, as it was with those evacuations. When I reflect on what the Declaration of Human Rights means for myself, it's not something that I think about, to be honest. But it's something that, if I ever come to, it resonates with the deepest parts of who I am and what I believe in. And I'm sure it's the same for the countless other individuals who dedicate their lives to service, to hope, to rights, for the most affected communities in our worlds today. I think that speaks to the essence, or how well the Declaration of Human Rights captures the essence of what it means to be a human being, for our spirit, and what it means to protect all human beings. I think alongside of it also it speaks to the love that is underpinned in the document. A deep love for humanity, a love that creates fire when it sees injustice, similar to the injustice that we see today in the world. And I think if that love is allowed to seep in, it also provides us empathy and perspective, which is something crucial for all the work that we do. That's why we continue to celebrate this document and to learn from it 75 years on. Congratulations again to all finalists, and thank you very much.
Human rights means safety, it means empowerment, it means care, it means love, and this means looking after each other.
Human rights for me is being able to choose my own religion and practice my faith.
And I can leave my religion or follow none at all.
Human right means freedom of expression without oppression.
Derechos humanos significa que nuestra hija tenga derecho a educación sin importar del lugar de donde venga.
Human rights mean I get holiday pay.
Human rights means we can live the lives that we choose.
Human rights means I can escape conflict and start a fresh life for my family and I.
Many of the freedoms and rights that we take for granted, just the right of children to go to school, the right for all of us to participate in civil society, the right for people to be free from torture, from arbitrary detention. All of these just really basic things that Australians don't have to wrestle with are issues, fundamental issues for people in many parts of the world.
The idea of a universal declaration of human rights was prompted by the horrors of the Holocaust and the experiences that people had during the Second World War. It was a propelling moment to say, we have to do better. We have to enshrine in some universal understanding of what these human rights are.
I call the General Assembly to order.
Dr. Herbert Evatt, the Foreign Minister of Australia, was extremely influential in the development of the draft, and he was the President of the General Assembly of the United Nations when the draft was adopted in Paris on the 10th of December 1948. We can be proud of H.V. Evatt.
Doc Evatt, as he was known, was the right person in the right place at the right time, as was Jessie Street, who played a pivotal role in advocating for the equal recognition of women.
This Assembly has adopted this very important declaration.
We got a copy of it, which was sent to Australian public schools by Dr. Evatt from New York, and I'll never forget receiving it and studying it, and it's always been near me. It's been under the pillow during my life, and it's given me inspiration and an outline and an action plan for humanity that we should try to achieve.
The data shows the stats are only getting bigger. We're dying younger. We're being incarcerated more. Our kids are being removed more. Every practice they've got around it is unsustainable. We can rebuild, but we have to systemize it. We have to measure it, and we have to show that communities have to own it.
No, Australia is not doing enough. I'm of the belief that we kind of need action now. We can't really afford to wait for homes to close or for schools to become unsegregated.
Australia has improved during my lifetime, but there's still a lot to do. Women's rights, the rights of refugees, the rights of people of colour, people with disabilities, all of these categories, they're on the edge, and they need the support of a document like the Universal Declaration. It's a banner under which we should all be marching in order to ensure that no one is left behind.
If we don't get that greater entrenchment of rights, what we will find in 5 years, 10 years, is a whole slew of royal commissions again, after thousands and thousands of people's lives have been seriously affected by poor decisions or badly designed policies that have not had human rights at their centre.
It's very important for Australia to protect the human rights and value it and cherish it. It's like air. It's something which is not visible, but you don't realize it when you cannot breathe. Then you die. And people take it for granted because they don't see it. But you will realize it when it's taken away from you.
Now, especially Australia, it should stand for a place where you can be like a free person. That everybody should have a voice and nobody should be excluded just because of the color of their skin.
It's really important that if we as a country are trying to say, hey, we are a really fair country, that we actually support efforts to try and make it as fair as possible for everyone.
To stop, think, and consider other people, accept them, try to understand them. It will be a big step forward if we can achieve that.
Many thanks to one of the Commission's media advisors, Omar Dehen, for producing that terrific video, as well as a 5-part video series which commemorates the Declaration from an Australian perspective. You can watch all of them on our website and social media channels. And thank you, Nawid and Adrian, for your introduction. As you've already heard, the date for the Declaration being adopted was December 10th. And we saw Doc Evatt and heard the wonderful Australian twang in his voice in that video. To mark the day, the Commission presents Australia's annual Human Rights Day oration, and doing the honours this year is our nation's Chief Law Officer, the Commonwealth Attorney-General Mark Dreyfus. Mr Dreyfus is currently in his second incarnation as Attorney-General, after filling that role during the Rudd-Gillard government, alongside being Minister for Public Service and Integrity, Minister for Emergency Management and Special Minister of State. Before being elected to Parliament in November 2007, Mr Dreyfus practiced law as a Melbourne-based barrister and was appointed Queen's Counsel, now King's Counsel, in 1999. During this time, Mr. Dreyfus also appeared for and advised various federal, state and local governments, and appeared in several landmark cases in the High Court, including the Stolen Generations litigation. In addition to being a strong advocate for social justice, as well as economic and environmental sustainability, Mr. Dreyfus is a passionate defender of the rule of law, freedom of the press, and the need for a powerful and independent National Anti-Corruption Commission. To deliver this year's Human Rights Day oration, will you please welcome Commonwealth Attorney General Mark Dreyfus.
Thank you very much. Good evening, and thank you to the Australian Human Rights Commission for hosting what is and will be a wonderful evening. I want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which we meet, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and I extend that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are here tonight. And I want to acknowledge Australian Human Rights Commission President Emeritus Professor Rosalind Croucher AM and all of the commissioners who are here, and thank you for your invitation to present the Human Rights Day oration. I'd also acknowledge all of the other distinguished guests who are with us tonight, who Professor Croucher has already acknowledged. It is my pleasure to join you all this evening to deliver the 2023 Human Rights Oration. As we've just seen from the footage, more than 75 years ago, in Paris on Friday the 10th of December 1948, the United Nations General Assembly proclaimed the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. With the horrors of the Second World War a recent memory, the Declaration recognised the inherent dignity and the equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family as the foundation of freedom, justice and peace in the world. It proclaimed faith in fundamental human rights, in the dignity and worth of the human person and in the equal rights of men and women. It also affirmed a determination to promote social progress and better standards of life. The Declaration proclaimed universal the rights which now define so much of who we now are as Australians. These universal human rights include the right to equality and freedom from discrimination, the right to freedom from slavery, the right to freedom of belief and religion, the right to social security, the right to desirable work and to join trade unions, the right to an adequate standard of living, the right to education. And Australians played a significant role in the development and acceptance of the Declaration in 1947 and 1948, most notably Jessie Street and the Honourable Dr. Herbert Vere, Doc Evatt QC. Jessie Street, Australia's first female delegate to the United Nations and Vice Chair of the UN Commission on the Status of Women at the time of its drafting, played a significant role in ensuring women were included in the Declaration's language. Doc Evatt, who had already played an important role in the development of the United Nations and its Charter, was President of the UN General Assembly when it accepted the Declaration on that Friday in December 1948. When Doc Evatt presided over the UN's acceptance of the Declaration, he was also Minister for External Affairs and Attorney General in the Chifley Labor government. Labor governments have proudly continued his legacy. We've worked to support and protect human rights in Australia and develop this nation's human rights standing in the world. It was under the Chifley government that Australia voted in favour of the Declaration, and Labor governments have championed Australia's ratification of major United Nations human rights treaties since, including 5 of the 7 major UN human rights treaties to which Australia is a party. It was under the Whitlam government that Australia ratified the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination in 1975. Under the Hawke government, Australia ratified the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination against Women, the Convention Against Torture and Other Cruel, Inhuman or Degrading Treatment or Punishment, and the Convention of the Rights of the Child. It was in 2008, under the Rudd government, that Australia became one of the first Western nations to ratify the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability. It was also under the Hawke government that the Australian Human Rights Commission was established on International Human Rights Day on the 10th of December 1986. The Albanese government remains committed to supporting the Commission and its essential work. In this government's first budget, we supported the Australian Human Rights Commission with additional funding of $49.8 million. In March of 2022, the Commission had its reaccreditation as an A-status national human rights institution deferred due to the former government failing to adopt transparent selection and appointment processes when appointing commissioners. In response to this, the very first bill that I introduced as Attorney General in the Albanese Labor government ensured all future appointments to the Australian Human Rights Commission would be made through a merit-based and transparent process. Following an extensive review, the Global Alliance of National Human Rights Institutions reaccredited the Australian Human Rights Commission in October this year as an A-status national human rights institution. This restored the Commission. Thank you. I am proud that the first bill that I brought to the Parliament was this bill. This restored the Commission's international reputation as one of the world's leading international human rights organisations. The announcement by the Global Alliance confirms the Albanese government is continuing to deliver on our promise to the Australian people to return integrity, honesty and accountability to government. An independent Human Rights Commission that is properly supported to fulfil its core functions is fundamental to Australia's human rights agenda, both internationally and domestically. Our support for the Commission underscores the Albanese government's commitment to enhancing and protecting Australia's human rights framework. Importantly, this government believes that the enhancement of human rights should be done in a way that unites rather than divides our community. We're committed to positive and practical change to promote and protect human rights. In 2010, the Gillard Labor government launched Australia's Human Rights Framework. The framework was the result of the National Human Rights Consultation, which inquired into the protection and promotion of human rights and responsibilities in Australia. The key focus of the framework was ensuring that education and information about human rights is readily available to everyone in the Australian community. This included the establishment of the Joint Committee on Human Rights and the requirement that each bill be accompanied by a statement of compatibility with Australia's international human rights obligations. When it was launched, the Human Rights Framework included a commitment to review in 2014 its effectiveness. Following the change of government at the 2013 election, that review was never undertaken. And that's why, and Ros has already mentioned it, I've asked the Joint Committee on Human Rights to conduct a review of Australia's human rights framework. The review is an opportunity to look at whether components of the framework remain fit for purpose or if improvements can be made. I look forward to receiving the committee's report in 2024. Anti-discrimination laws are another significant contribution to human rights that Labor governments have made in this country. The Racial Discrimination Act, the Sex Discrimination Act and the Disability Discrimination Act were the products of Labor governments and comprise significant elements of Australia's human rights framework. When talking about equal opportunity law, particularly the Sex Discrimination Act, it would be remiss not to pause for a moment and acknowledge the contributions made by the Honourable Susan Ryan. In 1981, from opposition, Susan introduced a private member's bill to outlaw discrimination on the basis of gender. While this bill was adjourned without debate, it demonstrated Labor's commitment to equal opportunity and anti-discrimination protections. Some 2 years later, in 1983, as a Cabinet Minister, Susan introduced the Sex Discrimination Bill to Parliament to give effect to certain provisions of the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination against Women. In her second reading speech on the bill, Susan expressed her delight at introducing such a major piece of legislation that did so much to advance equality. The Sex Discrimination Act commenced on the 1st of August 1984. After her time in politics, Susan continued to make significant contributions to Australian life, including with the Australian Human Rights Commission, where she served as the AIDS Discrimination Commissioner from 2011 to 2016. The Albanese government believes every Australian should be able to live free from discrimination in all areas of their lives. Articles 1 and 2 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights provide for equality and freedom from discrimination. Article 18 provides for freedom of belief and religion. The Albanese government is committed to extending the federal anti-discrimination framework to ensure that people are not discriminated against and do not experience vilification because of their religious beliefs or activities. Just as no one should be treated unfairly because of their gender, disability, sexuality, age or race, no one should experience discrimination because of their religious beliefs. Accordingly, the government has made a commitment to introduce legislation to protect people of faith from discrimination and vilification. Consistent with the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, this legislation will not remove protections that already exist in the law to protect Australians from other forms of discrimination. In introducing these protections, we will also act to protect all students from discrimination on any grounds and to protect teachers from discrimination at work while maintaining the right of religious schools to preference people of their faith in the selection of staff. To this end, I've asked the Australian Law Reform Commission to review anti-discrimination law applying to religious schools and other educational institutions. The ALRC inquiry is a crucial step towards implementing the Australian Government's commitment to extending anti-discrimination protections for more Australians. The Albanese Government is also funding the Australian Human Rights Commission to develop a national anti-racism strategy. The strategy will include a national anti-racism framework to support government, civil society, businesses and the community to tackle racism and promote racial equality in Australia at a structural and systemic level. The strategy will also extend the successful Racism It Stops With Me campaign, which seeks to raise public awareness, deliver public education and build community capacity to combat racism and discriminatory attitudes. Article 4 of the Declaration provides that no one shall be held in slavery or servitude, and that slavery and the slave trade shall be prohibited in all their forms. Article 23 of the Declaration provides that everyone has the right to work, to free choice of employment, to just and favourable conditions of work, and to protection against unemployment. The government is committed to combating modern slavery at home and abroad. Under our Tackling Modern Slavery package, we are establishing Australia's first anti-slavery commissioner, adding a further pillar to Australia's comprehensive response to modern slavery. The government has already provided $8 million over 4 years to the establishment of the commissioner. We're also strengthening Australia's Modern Slavery Act 2018, our transparency framework that drives business and government action to address modern slavery risks in supply chains. In May this year, the government tabled in Parliament a report from the statutory review of the Modern Slavery Act, which considered the first 3 years of the Act's operation. We're considering the review and consulting across government in formulating our response to the recommendations. Finally, we've committed $24.3 million over the next 4 years to strengthen the government's Support for Trafficked People program and grant funding of $2.73 million over the next 2 years for community-based projects and research to raise awareness of modern slavery, improve responses for survivors and bolster community outreach. I also want to acknowledge the work of Professor Croucher in developing the Free and Equal, a National Conversation on Human Rights project. We tabled the final report, Revitalising Australia's Commitment to Human Rights, Free and Equal Final Report 2023 in Parliament yesterday, and I look forward to considering the ideas put forward in the report. The report is the latest instalment of the fine work and leadership shown by Ros Croucher over her term as President. To conclude, we must continue to look forward to opportunities to strengthen and protect Australia's human rights framework. As we celebrate the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and consider our achievements since 1948, we must also look forward to how we can continue to make improvements. The Albanese government is committed to this task, and I look forward to working with you all in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Attorney General, for those powerful, insightful and inspiring words. While we're here on stage, I want to present officially the report. Thank you for tabling it, and here is your very own gift-wrapped copy with the badge celebrating the 75th anniversary. Thank you. I'll now hand back to our wonderful MC, Naz, who will take us along to the next stage of the proceedings. Thank you, Naz.
Thank you, Attorney General and President Croucher. We are now moving to the awards segment of the evening. Over the next 60 minutes, you are going to meet some of the outstanding work, or some of the outstanding people, and learn about the work that they have been doing to advocate for the rights of people in the communities that they serve. Before we do, though, we will have another performance. Please welcome back to the stage Kin and Yara.
Thank you, Naz. My name's Kian, this is Yara. We want to congratulate all the nominees tonight and their incredible work. And just want to introduce this next song, which is called Better Things. I wrote it, I guess, about using my voice and wanting change in my life. And initially I wrote it about hope, but then I've really thought about it and understood the story and the experiences I had when I was writing it, and how it was about action and wanting better for myself, and how doing something now makes that a reality now and better for the future. So I hope it hits a place in your heart where it inspires you to use your voice, use your power, and fight for better for everyone. Thank you for having us. Congratulations, everyone. Free Palestine. And big love. sleep. 'Cause one thing I know, we're on to better things. I've been wondering how to learn to love myself. And I've been wondering how, but I think it starts with my mental health. But how can I grow flowers when all I've got is weeds? So I'm digging them all up, planting some new seeds. 'Cause now I've got a bloom to try and get over you. Know what to do, so I can start anew. And the pain thorns will bring will be obsolete. 'Cause one thing I know, on to better things. On to better things. Hey, oh, hey, on to better things. Thank you so much.
That beautiful song. Will you please welcome now the European Ambassador to Australia, His Excellency Gabriel Vicentin, to kick us off for our awards component of the night. They're going to take you to our first set of presentations for the evening.
Hello, sorry, dramatic entry. It will be the only drama tonight. So, good evening, everybody, and welcome to this celebration of how people can achieve incredible things for the benefit of all mankind. And before I begin, I would like as well to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional custodians on the land on which we all live and pay respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. I would also like to thank the Australian Rights Commission for organizing this event, but above all for all the amazing work that they do for human rights in Australia and since a long time. And the European Union in Australia is pleased to have such a long-standing relationship with you, the Commission, as a like-minded partner and, Rosalind, if you allow me, a friend. And this is why we are so pleased to be supporting such a prestigious award tonight for young Australians. We have all heard before, it has been 75 years since the Universal Declaration of the Human Rights. And in this time, we have seen the value and the necessity for each and every one of us to uphold these principles in our everyday lives. As Rosalind said before, we are human rights. So, from promoting inclusivity of our diverse communities to championing women and children, or those who are fleeing from terror or discrimination, and giving them the freedom of living the lives they want, creating a future we can be proud of is entwined with how we uphold the Declaration of Human Rights. And the EU and Australia believe that human rights are for all people in all their diversities, and both EU and Australia make human rights a cornerstone of how they work at home, as well as also the foundation of our relationships with external partners. And this is because we both know that respected human rights are intrinsic for healthy and safe societies worldwide. But all this, without advocacy, all these values would wither and die. And advocates, such as those we are celebrating here tonight, are badly needed. Human rights advocates are the conscience of humanity, always reminding us that dignity, justice, and respect are essential ingredients for communities where everyone feels safe and where everyone can thrive as they wish and not as they are told. So tonight, I am extremely delighted for the European Union to be sponsoring and myself to be here presenting the Young People's Award. The former Secretary General of the United Nations, Kofi Annan, once said that you are never too young to lead, and you should never doubt your capacity to triumph where others have not. So, to coin an old phrase, I would add that our youth are our future. They are the foundation on which society stands, and tonight the finalists for the Young People's Award are powerful advocates who have shined light on issues affecting us all. Protecting Australians from sexual violence, upholding democracy and fighting disinformation, supporting sustainability and mental health, the 5 finalists that sit here tonight, I will not announce their names because I don't want to spoil the party, that will happen later. Well, all of them have made a significant contribution to this endeavor of holding us accountable and maintaining humanity in our society. And in these troubled times, when we see conflict and rising tensions in both local and global communities, I thank you and all the other courageous finalists for choosing to step forward. To be brave and act takes courage. And courage has to be acknowledged and rewarded. And this is why we need to honor our human rights advocates, not just so their contributions are recognized and celebrated, but so we reinforce in our community the values and principles which create a world where everyone feels they can belong. Thank you. And now I am told it is time to get our award presentation underway. And therefore, it is my pleasure to ask you all to please give a very warm welcome to the Chief Executive of the Australian Human Rights Commission, Leanne Smith.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for those remarks and for the EU's ongoing support for these awards. It's very much appreciated. Good evening, everybody. You've been sitting still for a long time now, but we're at the exciting part of the evening, I hope, for a lot of you, with the awards about to be announced. This is the 37th year that the Australian Human Rights Commission has been presenting these awards, in good times and bad, in lean times and in better years as well. And the purpose, of course, is to recognise, showcase and celebrate the work and achievements of human rights advocates working across Australia in all kinds of sectors and in lots of different circumstances. Tonight we get to shine a light on the extraordinary work of ordinary people who often go unrecognised for their efforts in protecting and promoting human rights in Australia. We have 21 finalists we're honouring tonight, and they were chosen by our independent judging panels from more than 260 nominations across 5 different categories. This was one of the strongest responses we've ever had for nominations in the history of the awards. In choosing the finalists, our judges considered the nominees' achievements in the past 12 months, but also their ongoing contribution to the advancement of human rights over time. We'd like to congratulate all of them on their selection as finalists and note that no matter what the outcome of tonight's awards, every one of them deserves our admiration and our gratitude for making a real difference in the lives of the people and the communities they serve. We'll find out more about each of our finalists as we progress through the evening, but to start with, we will now introduce you to the finalists for this year's Young People's Award. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. May peace be upon you. My name is Zahra Al-Hilali. I choose to challenge the status quo of human rights with one simple proverb. If you change the life of one person, it is as though you have changed humanity itself. This is a proverb that my mother taught me at a very young age in my advocacy work. She reminded me of the integral nature to build community that derives love, kindness, and community in the work that we do to challenge inclusivity and prosperity for us all. This Human Rights Awards, I challenge the nation to recognise that there are voices being left behind every single day. One community that I work with is the refugee and immigrant community, who, like my parents, like myself, for far too long have been excluded. It is the power of community that will drive this nation to success. It is the power of recognising that peace and prosperity cannot be built without the voices of every single person in this country. To me, human rights is all about recognising that if you amplify the voice of one person, it is as though you have already reached humanity. The power of every single refugee and immigrant in this country to change the safety, the prosperity, and the leadership of what we recognise as inclusive.
Hi, my name is Sarah Williams and I'm a proud Aboriginal woman and the founder of What Were You Wearing Australia, which is a non-for-profit organisation fighting to end sexual violence around the whole of Australia. I'm a survivor of child and adult sexual assault, and I guess it's that lived experience that is what drives me to do the work that I do. I don't want people to go through the system that it currently is and what I've gone through within the system. And I want to be able to see our country being able to provide so many more just outcomes for victim survivors, knowing how many people in this country are affected by sexual violence. I don't want to see that continue to happen, and I want to be able to contribute through the campaigns, advocacy, education that we do at What We're Wearing. We know that sexual violence is one of the most underreported crimes in Australia, and it's still at a whole nother level of taboo and stigmas around it, and particularly victim blaming. I want to be able to create a society where you can wear whatever you want, you can be whoever you want, and you won't be sexually assaulted or blamed for it. Also wanting to see a country where we can walk the streets at any time of the day and not have to hold keys in our hands or be worried that we're going to be hurt, because that's genuinely what it should be like.
My name's Gabriel. I'm 24 years old. I was actually abused in a mental health facility when I was 15 years old for a year and a half. I was subjected to really significant gay conversion practices and I was left suicidal and homeless. I started a support group online for other survivors of the Esther Foundation. I heard the stories of hundreds of other survivors and realised this wasn't an isolated incident, this was happening all over the state and all over the country. I started reaching out to community leaders, to lawyers, to politicians, to really anyone that would listen about our community and what we needed. And I ended up securing pro bono legal assistance for all survivors of the Esther Foundation. After speaking to the media about my experiences and helping others speak up as well, the government announced a parliamentary inquiry into the Esther Foundation and other unregulated health facilities in WA. The government committed to a ban on gay conversion practices along with massive reform for mental health and AOD services. It's been my biggest achievement. Myself and 2 other survivors have now started our own not-for-profit organisation called Flying Free. We're hoping to expand the support and the advocacy we've been able to provide to our community to all victims in WA and hopefully nationally, helping them seek justice, seek psychological healing, to share their experiences and be believed.
Yarpalingana. My name is Maggie Blandon and I'm a proud Palawa woman.
My name is Keshi and I'm a proud Bunjum woman.
And we're the coordinators for NAM Law Students on Voice. We are an Indigenous-led, culturally safe and community-informed education program with over 90 law students at the Melbourne Law School who came together in the name of human rights.
We were being asked lots of questions from friends and family, and we were aware of the misinformation that was going around the Voice referendum. We believe that all people have a role to play with this referendum, and as law students, we are privileged and lucky to have received a legal education that makes navigating these really tricky conversations and topics really difficult. I think importantly, we hope to encourage our peers and encourage young people as the next generation to question the quality of education we're receiving, question these systems and institutions that we are operating in. Education is a basic human right. We've always been taught by our old people about how important education is to empower us as Indigenous women. We also believe that empowering people through education to make an informed decision about the upcoming referendum is important because it allows other people to engage with Australian democracy.
Another hope for our future is the realisation of the complete Uluru Statement from the Heart, Voice, Makarrata, Treaty and Truth.
What an incredible lineup of people. I don't know how you chose. Let's find out who the award recipient is. Please hold your applause until the names of all the finalists have been read out. To present the Young People's Award, could you please welcome back to the stage Ambassador Vicentin, as well as Australia's National Children's Commissioner, Anne Hollins.
Thanks, Naz, and hello, everybody. How excellent that we're starting with the voices of young people tonight. This is fantastic, and to be exposed to some of their energy, creativity and wisdom and insights. This is what our country really needs to be looking forward to in the future generations of this country. So, I'm going to read for 2 of the finalists, and congratulations to all these finalists, and how amazing are they all. And then the ambassador will read the other 2. So first of all, our first finalist is Gabriel Osborne for exceptional, courageous advocacy for LGBTIQA plus survivors of institutional abuse and conversion practices. Do we clap? No, we don't clap. No, Naz told us not to clap. The second finalist is Sarah Williams for outstanding advocacy and support for victims and survivors of sexual assault, especially as the founder of the What Were You Wearing project.
Thank you. And then the fourth is Zara Al-Hilali for exceptional advocacy in relation to the human rights and gender equity of young people in Australia and across the Asia Pacific, and especially young people from refugee backgrounds. And then to conclude, Maggie Blandon and Keshi Moore for their outstanding work through NARM law students on Voice to framing First Nations social justice issues using a human rights perspective, and for addressing misinformation and disinformation about the Voice referendum across multiple youth-oriented platforms.
I think you can clap now. I have an envelope here, the Young People's Award for 2023. I'm opening it now. None of us know the answer. Is Gabriel Osborne.
Before or after the speech? We make you work first.
Yeah,
I'll hold it. I'll do it.
You hold it. Yeah. Hold it.
Oh, no, I think we'll do photos first. I didn't think for everyone to say. Oh, okay. I'll just... Hi. So you kind of know a little bit about me from that. I firstly would just love to thank the Australian Human Rights Commission. I'm also autistic, and they were incredibly accommodating of all my needs, being able to fly out here, and so I just want to thank them for that. I'd also like to thank all other survivors in WA and nationally, but specifically of the Esther Foundation, which was a residential facility which operated for almost 2 decades, unregulated. To all of them, all the people who spoke up courageously, I couldn't have done it alone. My story alone couldn't have done it, but the number of stories is what really made change. I'd just like to say that this is still happening. Abuse is still taking place in a really large scale in mental health and alcohol and other drug services. It's such a vulnerable group of people who are trying to seek help, and when there isn't enough funding in government to help people, other services pop up with people who maybe don't have the best intentions. So I think that it should be very important to protect that community who likely weren't protected in their past, which maybe have led to the problems they're having currently as well. Finally, I'll just say that the lizard you saw on the screen, his name is Dromi, and I am very excited to get back to WA and see him because he is the love of my life. So thank you very much.
Ambassador Vicentin. I don't think the people at backstage like me tonight. They don't seem to remember to turn my microphone on. Our next presentation is the Law Award. Let's find out a little bit more about these remarkable people and organisations through this video.
Hi, my name is Alison Battison and I'm the Director Principal and Founder of Human Rights for All. We provide pro bono legal representation to some of the most vulnerable members of our community. So these are refugees and stateless people who languish in Australia's immigration prisons indefinitely. The right to liberty is second only to the right to life under the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And at Human Rights for All, we seek to uphold the right to liberty for everyone and to end indefinite detention, indefinite administrative detention, which breaches our separation of powers in Australia. We're also involved in bringing Afghan women at risk and their families to Australia so that they can flourish in an environment of safety and respect. And particularly in a time when there are so many conflicts around the world, it's important to recognise that those who are normally most impacted are in fact women and children. The overall aim of Human Rights for All is to end indefinite administrative detention of refugees and stateless people in Australia. It is abhorrent that this practice continues in 2023, and we will not rest until it is outlawed under law.
ALS is driven to support those most vulnerable people in community. We know that they have extraordinary challenges, and it's our responsibility to support community walking them through those challenges.
At a bare minimum, we are seeking an improvement to the conditions in juvenile detention, specifically Banksia Hill Detention Centre and Unit 18 at Casuarina. We want the end to the use of solitary confinement in juvenile detention. And not just that, we want children to be treated humanely. It seems like a really basic ask, but holding the state to account to, at the very least, follow their own laws in relation to conditions in detention has been an uphill battle for us.
Working at the Aboriginal Legal Service is the most rewarding and fulfilling thing I've ever done. And I feel incredibly privileged to be in a role when I can try and help Aboriginal people and in turn hopefully improve their lives for the better.
The outcomes that ALS are seeking and will continue to seek include supporting our most vulnerable people in community and some of those most disadvantaged people that we support.
My name is David Barnden, and I'm the founder and principal lawyer of Equity Generation Lawyers, a law firm specialising in climate change, biodiversity and human rights litigation. With a small and dedicated team of lawyers, we run world-first legal actions to address the impacts of climate change, and we seek to protect and empower people and communities. The driving force behind Equity Generation Lawyers was understanding that climate change would lead to widespread suffering and loss for many people who don't typically have access to the legal system, and these include children and First Nations Australians. To protect communities, the worst climate impacts and tipping points must be avoided. The right to a clean, healthy and sustainable environment must be vigorously upheld. My work with Equity Generation Lawyers is dedicated to a rights-based approach to ensure governments, corporations and investors take action to avoid harms, in particular systemic harms. I led my team representing 9 children in a landmark class action on behalf of all Australian children that sought to impose a duty of care on the Minister for the Environment to avoid causing harm when approving new coal projects. That was the Sharma case. I lead our work on behalf of First Nations traditional owners and elders of the Tiwi, Larrakia and Gomeroi Gamilaroi nations against financial institutions involved in Santos' risky Barossa and Narrabri gas projects. Our work seeks to uphold the right to self-determination and the right to provide or withhold consent to risky projects in accordance with the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples.
I'm Kate Allingham, the Acting CEO of Economic Justice Australia. We are the peak for community legal centres that help people right around Australia with free advice on social security. This honour is shared with our members, the community legal centres that work with very little resources to help some of Australia's most vulnerable people access their human rights. The specialists in our centres really are human rights heroes. They change lives for the better, whether it's helping somebody access the disability support pension or doing a forensic deep dive to discover a Centrelink debt is incorrect. If you can't access the human right of social security, it's likely you can't access other human rights. We regularly see people who can't access shelter, education, safety, healthcare and food because they can't access their right to social security. Many of us are only a few pays away from needing income support. We saw this during COVID in long queues outside Centrelink offices. The current system traps people in poverty. We can do so much better. Economic Justice Australia is working to create a fair social security system that is easy to access and allows people to live with dignity. We use the case experiences of our members to advocate for a fairer social security system that ensures a strong safety net.
What an amazing group of people. To present this award, will you please welcome Australia's Sex Discrimination Commissioner, Dr. Anna Cody, and Director of Global Associations and Strategic Partnerships at LexisNexis, Veronica Rios.
Thanks, Naz, and good evening to everyone. I also want to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we're on, Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. And as a legal practitioner, I'm aware and very much in awe of the work that all of our finalists are doing in their respective fields, and congratulations to each of you.
Absolutely, Commissioner. I agree. I think it's so inspiring to see how these nominees are using their expertise to make a real difference.
So the finalists for this year's Law Award are Economic Justice Australia for defending the social security rights of people across Australia for more than 30 years, including in relation to the recent robo-debt scandal, and advocating for a more effective, equitable and accessible social security system in Australia. We also have David Barnden for leading the approach of his firm, Equity Generation Lawyers, to combating climate change through innovative, first-of-their-kind legal actions which develop Australia's common law and create novel paths for addressing climate-related risks and damage.
Aboriginal Legal Service of Western Australia. For over 50 years of service to First Nations peoples and communities in WA by providing legal expertise, community empowerment, advocacy for systemic change and a culturally sensitive approach. ALSWA's recent work in relation to youth justice has been particularly impactful. Human Rights for All for outstanding work in relation to obtaining liberty for asylum seekers, refugees and stateless persons held in onshore Australian detention, especially those from marginalised communities, by promoting and protecting human rights through legal action, advocacy and education.
So this is the Law Award, and we really don't know who the winner is. The award recipient is Aboriginal Legal Service of Western Australia.
Won't be too long. I'd like to thank the Australian Human Rights Commission for the opportunity. I'd like to thank you for the award. It's incredible. Didn't really expect this. I actually expected my lawyers to come up and receive this award. So Chloe and Lexi are here. Thank you very much. I've got a few things to say and a few people to thank, but effectively the work we do over the last 50 years, and we're 50 next year, has been an incredible journey of advocacy and supporting some of the most vulnerable people in our community. I'd like to thank Uncle Alan for the welcome today, and we must always remember and respect our eldership, because it's their struggle that actually gives us the opportunity to be where we are today. Now, Lexi and Chloe have been good enough to provide a speech, but I'm going to go sort of in a roundabout way. And I'll get to the point, but I'd like to thank Chloe, Lexi, Alice Barter, Eloise, I can't say her surname, Longalong, to all the team, the civil team, the human rights team that work within Aboriginal Legal Service. The work they've done particularly over the last 2 or 3 years, in relation to supporting young people detained, has been incredible. But when I think about my journey of 50 years of learning and understanding the challenges, and 50 years on top of that of previous generations telling of their experiences, and we get to the point today where this is an enormous award, and I'm very proud of that. I'd like to quickly also like to thank our senior council. They did an amazing job on the action we took to the state government to make sure people who are detained do have a voice, and we were lucky enough to be able to win that case, and we're lucky enough to influence the decision making around how young people are kept in detention in cells for unreasonable and from a human rights point of view, just completely unsatisfactory that they'll be locked up 24/7 in today's day. It's just unacceptable. So on that note, this year, if you don't know, is the 40th anniversary of the passing of John Pat. And I think you might all remember that case back in WA. Fast forward 40 years, and the main case in recent times, we lost a young person detained in Banksia Hill facility, actually Unit 18. And if you haven't read about that, it makes me wonder how far we've actually come in those 40 years where that can happen to a 17-year-old. If that's an acceptable standard within our community, then we have a lot to look at too. We've got a long way to go, is what I'm saying. The thing about that though is this award is not about necessarily the work we do. We love the work we do. We're happy to support people who don't have a voice. It really is about young Master Dodd and his family, the Dodd family, the Dodd community. Well, they only laid that young boy to rest not that long ago. So from that point of view, and I know that I've lost a fair bit in this speech, but what I will say is that reflection for me is that is what this award is about today. And I thank you all very much. Thank you.
Congratulations to the Legal Service, and many thanks to Veronica and Commissioner Cody. Our next category is the Community Award. Here's a little more about why they do what they do.
This achievement is thanks to one woman's belief in the collective power of community to create meaningful change, and her unwavering dedication to the fight for inclusive education. Square Peg Round Hole is the product of Louise Cuchel's vision of a world where the human rights of neurodivergent and disabled children is upheld by the education system. Lou passed away in July this year, and we miss her terribly.
Hi guys, it's Lou Cushel here from Square Peg Round Hole podcast. One thing I know for sure is if we continue to sit in silence, then this problem is not going to go away.
We're a volunteer collective with around 2,000 members nationally, and we advocate for systemic reform to the education system to uphold the human rights of neurodivergent and disabled children, specifically the right to fully inclusive education.
Our goal is to eliminate segregated learning within classrooms and specialised schools. Full inclusion in mainstream classrooms not only achieves better outcomes for students with disability, but also for those without. We advocate for neuroaffirming and trauma-informed approaches, pushing for the removal of behaviourism in favour of collaborative problem solving. We believe this is imperative to valuing the diverse personalities, creativity and talents of students with disability. No student should be punished for behaviours inherent to their neurotype or disability.
Hello from Advocacy Tasmania.
I am Jane.
And I'm Mark.
Every Advocacy Tasmania employee has found themselves working here for the same reason. We are all compelled to see injustice made right, to fight for the right of our clients, and to change systems that strip people of dignity and choice. We might be from a small place, but our ambition is big. We want a caring, equitable, and inclusive society where human rights are so ingrained and protected that organizations like ours will no longer be needed.
Working with our clients to have their rights restored is what we do day to day. Without our support, our clients would likely continue to be ignored. So we will keep going with this important work and make services and systems accountable and respectful of human rights. In the last few years, we've also campaigned to change Tasmania's broken guardianship and administration system, the oldest and most draconian in the country. Guardianship and administration systems across Australia are inherently cruel and dehumanising. They treat people as being less than human, and they make them fight, often for years, to enjoy basic human rights. This is a true national shame. Our work will continue until this system is replaced.
Hi everyone, I'm Debbie Kilroy from Sisters Inside. We are so honoured and grateful to be nominated for the Australian Human Rights Commission's Human Rights Award. All the staff across our organisation here in this jurisdiction are so happy and so proud because of the work that we do every day alongside criminalised and imprisoned women and girls, their children, families and their communities. We work every day to free her and to end the incarceration of all women and girls, not only here, but across this country and around the world. Our work is driven by passion of those of us who are formerly incarcerated. We started when we were in prison and we continue today as formerly incarcerated women and girls. And we also continue to work with those women in prison who are part of our management committee. What we seek, as I said, is to ensure that human rights are complied with in all prisons, but more so to tear down the walls and free every woman and girl from all cages, not only here but around the world.
In 2019, Sydney Gay and Lesbian Mardi Gras took a group of people to Athens in Greece to pitch to the world to bring Sydney World Pride to Sydney in 2023. The centrepiece of our pitch was the Human Rights Conference. We wanted to shine a light on the Asia-Pacific region, our First Nations cultures here in Australia, and elevate voices that had often been silenced or never heard. We did that so that we could provide a platform for change. It couldn't have occurred without our friends, our partners, our families and our supporters, particularly the ICC, Aranex, and of course our lead community partner, Equality Australia.
Hi, my name is Anna Brown and I'm the CEO of Equality Australia. In March this year, we delivered the largest ever LGBTIQA+ human rights conference the world has ever seen. We were able to elevate the voices that matter, build a vision for the future and share the strategies and skills that we need to realise it. Human rights are at the heart of everything we do, and that's the vision that drove the Human Rights Conference that Sydney World Pride brought to the world. And it was our guiding principle as we worked intensively over years to prepare this conference and bring it to the world. The Sydney World Pride Human Rights Conference was the largest ever gathering of human rights defenders, activists, parliamentarians, UN representatives, federal and state ministers, academics, and our broader community committed to LGBTIQA+ rights. Whether we're fighting against criminalisation, conversion practices, exclusion of trans people, or to protect intersex children from harm, every one of us deserves to live in a world where we're treated with dignity and respect.
To present the Community Award, I would now like to welcome back Commission Chief Executive Leanne Smith and the Chair of the Federation of Ethnic Communities Councils of Australia, Carlo Carli.
Thanks, Naz, and hello again, everyone. The work done by people and organisations at the grassroots enriches our society in an incredibly direct and meaningful way. So it warms my heart to be able to honour such outstanding Community Award finalists tonight. Congratulations to all of you.
FECA, as a federation that represents 1,400 members, is well aware of the amazing work that's done at the grassroots and at the community level in the advocacy and really in support of human rights.
So now just to mention again the finalists for this year's award. As you saw the first video, Square Peg Round Hole, for outstanding volunteer-led work, providing information about and advocating for inclusive education for neurodivergent children. Secondly, Equality Australia and Sydney World Pride for supercharging the knowledge, skills and networks of 3,200 LGBTQIA+ activists from around the world by delivering the 3-day Sydney World Pride Human Rights Conference in March this year, one of the largest international LGBTQIA+ human rights conferences ever held.
And also to Advocacy Tasmania for more than 30 years of working to improve and restore human rights for Tasmanians and the broader community by promoting individual advocacy, pursuing systemic change and providing education. Finally, we have Sisters Inside for outstanding work in relation to advocating for the rights of women and girls who are currently or have previously been in prison in Queensland, as well as supporting them to live safely and violence-free in prison and in the community when they leave prison.
All right. And for 2023, the winner is Advocacy Tasmania.
I must say I was reflecting, sitting there, about the speakers and the performers and the finalists, and I thought, I don't think I've ever been in a room full of giants. And here they are, and it's the most extraordinary feeling, so thank you for having us here, it's marvellous. There are about 30 of us at Advocacy Tasmania, mostly advocates who work across the island. We're led from the front by a lion-hearted, inexhaustible, infinitely modest CEO, and her name is Leanne Groombridge. Sorry, Leanne, I know you wouldn't have approved the draft script if I had put that in, so that's a little addition, slightly off script, but it had to be said. And Advocacy Tasmania is all about human rights, the rights of older people, people with disability, people with mental health issues, and people using alcohol and drugs. We work with hundreds of individual clients every year, and we do the systemic work such as guardianship and administration. And we know from our clients' experiences that guardianship has no place in Australia. And a supported decision-making system must urgently be implemented. We're working on that, and as we said in the video, we'll continue to work to have dehumanising guardianship and administration system replaced. Until it is, we'll keep working. Jane.
Advocacy Tasmania vision is to create a caring, equitable and inclusive society where human rights will be so ingrained that services like ours will no longer be needed. This award tonight is dedicated to every human rights advocate seated here today, and to everyone from Tasmania community, and to all advocates from Advocacy Tasmania. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you to the Commissioner for this award, and thank you to everyone. Thank you.
Congratulations, Advocacy Tasmania, and thank you to Leanne and Carlo. Our next category is our Media and Creative Industries Award. Let's find out what drives these people and organisations to tell the stories that they choose to tell.
Northern Pictures has championed telling stories that celebrate differences and change the way we look at the world. Instead of shying away from difficult subjects, we rise to the challenge of telling hard stories about domestic violence, mental health, racism, misogyny and inequality. And even though these programs are challenging to make, audiences and critics have embraced them. Programs like See What You Made Me Do have been called one of the most important documentaries you'll ever watch. And it became a vital tool for people working to overcome the epidemic of violence that's hiding in our suburbs. It became the most watched documentary series on SBS last year. And more recently, our series Asking For It explores the issue of sexual consent across generations. Content from the series is now circulating through thousands of our schools and was even tabled in Parliament to inform this year's inquiry into sexual consent laws across the country. And these shows follow on from the widely popular series Employable Me, where we told the stories of people with disabilities who were given their first opportunity to join the workforce. And this kind of representation can have a real-world effect on how audiences feel about themselves and how they react to others around them. As program makers, our mission to give voice to the issues and the people that are rarely heard in mainstream media. We hope our commitment to telling important and inclusive stories for the last decade can contribute to a more equitable and better society.
My name's Anne Conley. I'm an investigative journalist for the ABC. For the past 2 years, I've been reporting on the human rights issues around people who are under public guardians and public trustees. There are about 50,000 Australians who've been found to lack the capacity to make decisions because of cognitive disabilities. The state has control over where they live, how their money is spent, and what medical treatment they have. But they're unable to speak out to the media because it's a criminal offence in most of the country to identify anybody under guardians or public trustee systems. For this reason, we went to 2 Supreme Courts and a state tribunal asking that they lift gag orders on a number of people whose stories we wanted to tell. We were successful, and we were the first media organisation to take such action. It's allowed us to tell the stories in a number of different programs on the ABC about how people's lives have been affected. Since then, the Disability Royal Commission has now recommended that the gag laws that have been preventing people from speaking out be lifted around the country. If this does happen, it means that people in the media will not have to take legal action or will not have to pixelate faces and try to tell the stories of these people. Instead, we will be able to shine a light on an issue which is decades long old, which has not been scrutinised in any way for many, many decades. And it will be the first step in perhaps reforming a system where many people are so very unhappy.
Hi, I'm Kumi Taguchi, the host of Insight on SBS. As a team, we felt compelled to enter, particularly for our 2-part special, Seeking Justice. The premise of those episodes, what justice looks like for different people and how that might change over time, drove us to find the most compelling stories and bring together people from all over the world to share their experiences in this studio. It was a profound experience for those sharing their life-altering moments with such vulnerability and honesty, and for us to meet those fighting for what is fair and right with such dignity and strength. The deep thought and care that was required by my team and me to bring it all together went to the heart of what drove me to pursue a career in journalism. How we humans navigate loss, love, unfairness and injustice, and the hope that storytelling can make a difference. As a teenager, it confounded me that even though we're all born the same, our paths in life can be so radically different. The geographic lottery has so much to do with that, and in so many cases, how one event here or there defines our belief in the goodness or not of the world. And in a world of opinion and polarised debates, we feel so strongly that the way to understanding and compassion is through honest, authentic conversations. And we do that in a space that is based on dignity, equality, and mutual respect, which is at the heart of our human rights.
My name is Rona Glyn McDonald. I'm the CEO of Common Ground, a First Nations storytelling not-for-profit that creates space for our communities to tell our stories our own ways as a form of healing and as a form of resistance. We believe that storytelling is at the heart of creating justice for our communities across this continent, and amplifying our perspectives and our truths of the past, present, and current injustices of our communities is central to driving futures that put our solutions at the heart of those futures, as well as showcasing the unwavering tapestry of strength that our communities hold across this continent. Our work is centred on creating space for not only our communities to tell our stories, but to build capacity across storytelling. We are the original storytellers, and we have been telling stories since the first moments of time. And it is integral that we show that strength and continue to amplify the knowledges and cultures and solutions that our communities hold across this continent and surrounding islands.
What an impressive talent pool. I would now like to welcome Australia's Human Rights Commissioner, Lorraine Finlay, and Creative Australia Head of Public Affairs, Nicola Grayson, to present this award.
Well, thanks, Naz, and good evening, everyone. This award spans journalism, film, TV and radio, literature, music, performing arts, visual arts, fashion and advertising. Pretty much every chocolate in the box of cultural creativity.
Delicious. Telling stories which expose injustice or which celebrate human rights principles is a vital part of both Australia's human rights ecosystem and our cultural landscape.
So congratulations to all of the finalists this evening for their outstanding work. The finalists for the Media and Creative Industries Award are Insight, SBS TV, for consistently delivering sensitive, empathetic and inclusive discussions around a broad range of often challenging topics. Northern Pictures, for producing powerful and inspirational stories and screen content, such as Love on the Spectrum and Employable Me, which spotlight and humanise underrepresented people and communities.
Also, Common Ground, for an outstanding approach and commitment to producing innovative and unique content which centres First Nations storytellers and communities in the digital space. And also Anne Connolly, for her work as an impactful, change-making investigative journalist who shines a light on human rights issues that are often under-acknowledged or underreported.
And the 2023... I was so excited I wanted to jump straight to the envelope. The 2023 Media and Creative Industries Award is presented to Northern Pictures.
Wow, it's amazing. Sorry, brought half of the team, or a quarter of the team, but anyway, we're here, so wow, this is amazing. It's a great honour to receive this award, and I'd like to thank the Australian Human Rights Commission and the selection panel for recognising Northern Pitches and our body of work for its contribution to human rights, whether that be people with a disability looking for work, people on the spectrum looking for love, domestic violence, or the question of consent or sexual violence. I'm very proud of all the shows we produce and the whole team at Northern Pitches who work so hard to create and produce and deliver shows that shine a light on important issues and that are produced with great sensitivity and respect. You're all amazing and I thank you all. Also, lastly, I'd like to congratulate all the other finalists in this category. You're all worthy winners. Thank you. Now to Karina.
Yeah, I'd just like to pick up on what Peter just said, because anybody who spends their life working for human rights, like the people in this room, good on ya. And especially to everybody else in this category, because it's actually really hard to get the space on television screens to tell these types of stories. And so when there's a lot of noise out there, to create things that cut through and make a difference, I congratulate the other people out there trying to tell these stories and to forward the voices that we don't often hear. So thank you so much tonight.
Congratulations, Northern Pitches, and thank you, Nicola and Commissioner Finlay. Well, we've now come to the final category in our awards tonight, the prestigious Australian Human Rights Medal. This is the 36th medal the Commission has presented. Previous recipients include Fred Hollows, Peter Grester, Dorothy Hoddinott, Ian Thorpe, Jonathan Thurston, the Honourable Peter McClellan, Chrissy Foster, Professor Larissa Berendt, and Australia's next Disability Discrimination Commissioner, Rosemary Caius. And can I add my congratulations to Rosemary as well. Tonight, one of our 4 finalists will join this esteemed group of human rights heroes, but first we need to hear a little bit more about them and their work.
My name's Michelle Turvey. I've been working within communities for the past 30 years in various fields. I love making a difference to people's lives. Even a small difference is a high achievement for me. I've always loved mentoring people, sharing my lived experiences with others who feel hopeless and alone. Last year, during the most traumatic time of my life, when my son Cassius died due to violence, I had a choice to be angry and could have created a racial war. However, I chose differently. I chose to call calm and to stop violence, to be a spokesperson for my son, to share him with many people. His qualities, his caring big heart, and how he always helped others, young and old. Cassius's legacy will live on in me. As a victim of crime, I now assist the WA Police Force firsthand by delivering training to new recruits on how to empathise with victims of crime, as well as engaging with young people to empower them to be leaders and cope with trauma. By sharing my lived experiences, I hope others gain strength from me to do the same, reach out for help, and never feel alone.
Hi, I'm Helen Watchers. I've worked for over 40 years as a human rights lawyer, and my drive comes from growing up in Western Sydney, near Villawood, with refugee neighbours who I witnessed firsthand suffering inequality. Education is the transformative ladder of opportunity for working class people like me to become human rights lawyers and make a real difference for a better society. It's been a privilege to serve the ACT community for nearly 2 decades as Human Rights Commissioner and President more recently. Under my leadership, we've developed a deep human rights culture through implementing our 2004 Human Rights Act. So it's become business as usual when dealing with government, whether it's public housing, education, disability or health. However, no systems are perfect and unfairness needs to be challenged. I'm excited that a new human rights complaints process is currently being legislated, and after that a right to a healthy environment. Another ACT first for Australia. The outcome I will continue to strive for is a National Human Rights Act to positively enhance ordinary people's enjoyment of human rights every day all over Australia. I was honoured to work in partnership with the ACT elected body to lobby government in 2016 to amend our Human Rights Act to specifically recognise distinct Aboriginal cultural rights using the wording of the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. We work collaboratively to make those rights come to life by empowering people to know their rights and for governments to know their obligations. Whether it's addressing over-representation in child protection or humane conditions of detention, there is still a long journey of reconciliation to walk together and to close these wide gaps of disadvantage.
My name is Juliana Nkrumah. I'm the manager, Gender Equality and Women's Safety at SSI. What drives me to do what I do is my adherence to the principles that have shaped my life since I was a teenager. These principles align with the promise of the UDHR, which are freedom, justice, and equality for all. In my high school, we had a motto: live pure, speak true, right, wrong, follow the king. This and my Christian faith underlie the professional choices, including working in gender-based violence and racial equality, advocating for the empowering and supporting of women and young women, and ensuring individuals have the opportunity to shape the decisions that impact on their human rights, as well as working with decision makers to increase their ability to fulfill and respect human rights, and to be held accountable for their actions. The human rights outcomes that I seek to achieve are gender equality, making reality the slogan, women's rights are human rights. A desire that our Australian society upholds the human rights of all its citizens, that our government policies and services recognize that human rights are the non-negotiable and reflect the foundation on which to find solutions to our common challenges.
My name is Daniel Noor, and by day I'm a doctor, generally at Royal North Shore Hospital. I'm the founder of Streetside Medics, which is a not-for-profit organisation which has been operating on the streets of New South Wales since 2020. In short, Streetside Medics is a GP-led mobile medical service providing access to healthcare for those who are experiencing homelessness. Since starting in 2020, we have expanded our operations, originally with the one clinic, our first being Woolloomooloo, to now over 9 clinics currently operating on most days of the week, with a pure goal to alleviate the barriers that limit access to healthcare, and as a result of that, to improve the health outcomes for those who are experiencing homelessness. For 6 years in medical school, and then the many years after that training as a doctor, I've had one goal, and that is to be the very best doctor that I could be, so that I could help people who needed my care. And my view of my profession changed a couple of years before Streetside Medics started, when I learned that people who are experiencing homelessness, accessing the healthcare service that I was a part of was challenging. Healthcare inequity is still very much a problem in Australia. I'm humbled by such a nomination and hope that I and the team of Streetside Medics can continue pushing forward healthcare advocacy for those who are experiencing homelessness.
What an incredible group of people. Each and every one of you is a deserving recipient of this medal. But to make the presentation tonight, I would now like to welcome once again the President of the Australian Human Rights Commission, Rosalind Croucher, and the Head of Governance and Human Rights at the Paul Ramsay Foundation, Christine Ratnasingham.
Thank you, Naz, and good evening to you all again. What an incredibly diverse group of people through all of the awards, and for this one being our Human Rights Medal, to see such extraordinary commitment and service to communities, to individuals, and to humanity.
And it really is terrific to be celebrating this important work. Thank you for inspiring and moving us by all you have accomplished, both individually and collectively, for significant impact in Australia. Congratulations to all of you.
The finalists, in summary, for this year's Human Rights Medal are Michelle Turvey for working towards long-term systemic change for victims of crime following the tragic death of her son Cassius in late 2022. Juliana Nkrumah AM for providing more than 30 years of service to advancing human rights in Australia's multicultural communities, especially in relation to gender equity and women's safety.
Dr. Daniel Noor for founding and leading Side Street Medics, a volunteer-operated mobile medical service specifically created to provide care and support for people experiencing homelessness. And Dr. Helen Watchers, OAM, for more than 40 years of service as one of Australia's strongest advocates for human rights, leading to significant law reform in the areas of anti-terrorism, discrimination, mental health, guardianship, tenancy and criminal legislation.
The moment has arrived. It's at this point that I feel we should have a drum roll. And the winner is Juliana Nkrumah.
Thank you very much, everybody. I'm sorry, I'm coming from my hospital bed. I had surgery on Monday, and I was wondering why the heck do I have to come from my hospital bed? But it's all worth it. And it's with absolute humility that I accept this award in such an auspicious year, the 75th year of the UNDHR. I cannot dare to compare myself to the human rights defenders whose stories of persecution I read about whilst we get acknowledged and celebrated. Thank you to the Australian Human Rights for their partners for putting these awards up. Thank you to my manager and co-conspirator, Dr. Astrid Perry, OAM, for the nomination. Thank you to my other co-conspirators, Carol Shaw and Ms. Kepi Sijoy. To my husband, Jojo, and my children who sacrificed their quality time with me whilst I ran around trying to save the world. Love you so much. My work is in response to observed need, one of which is a female genital mutilation program in Australia that required birthing, advocacy, and support, and a person to stand in the nexus between human rights and cultural rights to reduce the discrimination that accompanied the response to this practice in Australia. We walked where eagles dared to tread. Our response encompassed a holistic approach to addressing a practice which inspires a lot of human rights violations. We conducted human rights education to empower women and provide tools for advocacy, part of which included conducting human rights courts of testimonies to highlight human rights violations confronting African women refugees settling in Australia. Our purpose was to increase knowledge, raise awareness, and center women's voices for change. We observed outcomes in women empowered to find a place in their new country as advocates, fostering a sense of belonging, empowered to participate in their new country as equal partners. So thank you.
Congratulations, Juliana. Please put your hands together one more time. Well, that brings us to the end of tonight's ceremony. No doubt, many of you, like me, would have been very moved by the stories and the work that these incredible 21 people do in their everyday lives. Thank you for joining us here tonight. Many thanks also to the Attorney General for delivering his stirring oration, and thanks also to our presenters and speakers, and also to our award recipients and all of the finalists for the work that you do and will continue to do. Congratulations, and thank you for being here tonight. Thank you everyone for being here tonight, either in the room or joining us online. We look forward to seeing you again next year for another wonderful celebration of human rights heroes across our country. Could all of our finalists please come to the front for a photo? We promise that it will not take very long. Otherwise, safe journey home. There are refreshments outside. Thank you for joining us tonight.